Hello and welcome. This is a powerful week. So, how did you do during the eclipse? This energy is carried forward through several things that are happening, and I want to presence them so that we can again get alongside of what's happening in April. April is said by many astrologers to be the most impactful month, meaning that it sets us on a course. So, we're going to feel these energies for the rest of our lives, really. And to know that this is the starting point, the ignition point through the solar eclipse, all these planets and points in Aries. And now we come this weekend to the Uranus-Jupiter conjunction. I'm sure you've heard a lot about it if you're following astrology. It's a huge time. We get this in conjunction every 13, 14 years. So it's worth looking back at 2010 and just noting what you were up to and the completion of a cycle. Astrology has many, many cycles, and this is one type of cycle that we can track. This energy of Uranus and Jupiter. Now let's think about those two planets, Uranus being this planet of innovation, of technology, the modern ruler of Aquarius, where Pluto is, and also the Great Awakener. So we've heard about technology, we've heard about farming because it's in Taurus, so we're talking about food. Uranus likes efficiency, it likes innovation, it likes technology. But I really love to talk about the spiritual sides, the Great Awakener. An awakening in the Uranian context is not this slow, gradual stair step, even though Taurus likes that. It is more the type of awakening that's bursts and flashes of insight, of change, of like perspective shift. You are in one place and you're now in another. It's timeline hopping, it's quantum. So I use those terms intentionally to give you a sense that inside yourself, open to that kind of leap, because this kind of thing is not earned. It's not earned at all. You've already been preparing for it. You can't prepare for it. It's going to have you. It's going to do you. And so the best way in those kinds of situations is to get your will aligned with divine will and to open to not get so scattered, because Uranian energy can be super scattered. It just messes with the mind. So it can get delusional as well, because Jupiter, let's talk about Jupiter as the conjunction. So that means they're operating as one. And I heard some Hellenistic astrologers talk about how they take on the characteristics of each other. So Jupiter's characteristic is to expand. That's why they call it the planet of abundance, because it expands, but it can be abundance of shit. It can be abundance of problems. It can be abundance of weight gain. So, Jupiter is just an expander. But Jupiter is also benefic, and Jupiter also is a teacher planet, the guru planet. So, and now we're coming home in Aries to you are your own guru. So, these are the things that are happening. Jupiter and Uranus are in Taurus this time, not in Aries, but all that like solar eclipse and the planets that were in Aries, we have very strong Aries energy on the table, and we're moving into Taurus energy. And so this Uranus-Jupiter conjunction is going to be in Taurus. The last one in 2010 was in Aries. So you can see where we've been operating in these themes, humanity has. And when the themes come together, it's really trying to move us along in a conversation. And what's the conversation? Well, the axes of Taurus and Scorpio, where we have a Scorpio full moon coming up, and the sun will be moving into Taurus. The conjunction happens in Taurus, and we have a Scorpio full moon. That axis is financial. It's money. And so Taurus is ruling banking and wealth, where Scorpio rules kind of secret wealth and big money. So you can see that these conjunctions, especially when they're with an outer planet, Uranus, they're going to bring in big societal changes. So people, like, I've heard that Steve Jobs had the Uranus-Jupiter conjunction in his natal chart, meaning he was born. So babies that are born this weekend will have this in their natal chart. Isn't that interesting to think about? So they're change agents. They're coming into the world as change agents. And you think about the legacy that Steve Jobs left through the iPhone, which really is the entry point for artificial intelligence, wouldn't you say? So huge change agents. Like, the world as we know it shifts with the inventions of these people, which is kind of exciting. And this time, let's kind of bring it down home to each one of us so that we can start looking at our own charts. There's something to say about the larger chart too, and that is that this Uranus-Jupiter conjunction is around 19 degrees, 19-20 degrees Taurus. So really, like, give or take a few, you're going to look at what those degree points are in your chart and if any other fixed signs have them. But as astrologers have been pointing out, and this is very worth noting, that this particular happening this weekend, this operation as one with Jupiter and Uranus, that happened in 2024. I mean, 2020, this is 2024, but in 2020, there was Jupiter and there was, Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn. But in this time, it was Saturn and Pluto operating as one. And that was a conjunction, I'm looking at my notes, at 22 degrees Capricorn. So what they're saying is, so Saturn and Pluto operating as one. Jupiter was in the mix as well, but it was about January 13th, 2020, because that's when I launched the Divine Feminine Summit. And I knew we were launching it right at this conjunction. And we didn't know, think back to 2020, we did not know when we launched the summit, the first Divine Feminine Summit, what was going to happen, because my summit was over by the time total lockdown happened. And I was already running the inner circle that enrolled after that summit. So it was so cool that we had people from over 10 countries and 10 time zones together experiencing the very same thing called lockdown. So that conjunction, because it had Saturn, the Lord of Karma, the Lord of Time, with Pluto, death and rebirth, we knew that that was the initiatory time of the change that happened over the last 4 years. And indeed, it did. We didn't know then, just like we don't know now what change is going to happen. We didn't know then, but we can bank on the fact that there was total change initiated, and we're still in it. So that gives you a picture of how this works. It's just the spark that we'll live into. But the cool thing to note is that that was a restriction energy, and we went into lockdown, and that was at 22 degrees. This conjunction is operating now between, the astrologers say, like 21 to 22 degrees of Taurus. Where do you have that in your chart? So they were basically hitting the same point. They're trining the same point. So it's like the past has culminated to this point that is now in full swing. And this conjunction is taking us into a Uranian Jupiter future, expanding technology, expanding consciousness, awakening from what had to happen 4 years ago. So this is kind of like picking up the baton, going back to that same degree point, but not in the energy of restriction, in the energy of moving in a different direction. I get chills when I say that because I think it's really cool. It's breakthrough energy. So for example, we had this like lockdown insular energy, and now we have breakthrough energy. And that's cool. Keep saying that, it's cool, but it is, it's like it's lighting me up because all the energies were in Aries. And remember the 0 degree Aries. So here's an interesting fact. We talked about the 0 degree Aries point and that's always initiated at the time of the equinox. That's the 0 degrees Aries point. That 0 degrees 13 to 14 years ago was the last Uranus-Jupiter conjunction in Aries at 0 degrees. So there's a lot of completion that's happening of what was initiated back then and all the things we went through, because 2010 was certainly very far away from 2012, very far away from 2016 and the events of the election, and then very far away of the event of 2020. But you think about all that happened in a cycle. And now we are at the beginning point of a new cycle. So that's like the big picture. So where you get to look now, so this time, this conjunction's in Taurus, and it hasn't happened until since 1941. So people who were born in 1941 had that Uranus Jupiter conjunction in Aries in their natal charts. And they're, however old they are right now, 80 something, right? So I'm going to pop up a document here. I'm not going to screen share, but just I'm going to refer to it so that I can share with you where you can find Taurus in your chart, because this is happening in Taurus. So just to relate it to yourself. Now, it's not really one incident. Or one spot, because our charts are connected with geometry. So there are angles and there's oppositions and there's conjunctions and there's trines, there's all kinds of things, which is why you might want a reading, especially if you're really feeling it, it can explain a lot of what might be happening. And sometimes a context helps us to get alongside of it instead of resist it as like, oh my God, everything is turning upside down, because Uranus is going to turn things upside down. And it comes out of nowhere. So as many people have theories about this Uranus-Jupiter conjunction, there's no way to know because it's Uranus and it's not going to tell you. It's just going to hit you from one side. So I can say that amplifying your spiritual practice will support you all the time in anything that you choose to do, and particularly in this moment. And really, poise yourself for a quantum leap in your spirituality that is just a grace that's just given, because you cannot work for this. You can't do, 108 mantras or, you just can't, because it doesn't respond to that. It's like the imaginal realm that I talk about a lot in these videos or in soul talks. It doesn't respond to linearity. So just trust that who you be, and if your time is called, it's called. So 21, 22 degrees Taurus, where is that in your chart? And you can find that by finding your rising sign and then working counterclockwise. So your rising sign is in the first house. This is whole house astrology, and work counterclockwise. This is not sidereal astrology. Sometimes people ask, and I don't really follow sidereal astrology. I do in some other ways, but not in this way. So find where it is in your chart. Taurus, if Taurus is in your first house, let's just say that, if that's your ascendant and it's in your first house, you're going to have breakthroughs. We're going to use the word breakthrough for every single one. Breakthroughs in your identity or in your appearance, your physical appearance, because the first house rules your physicality on the planet. So it could be, could be lots of different things that could inform. Maybe you just are feeling like a different person on the inside. And so the way that you carry yourself, the way that you dress starts to reflect that change. The second house. If Taurus falls in your second house, we're going to talk about money here. So you may have a breakthrough around money, a realization around money. It could also be your values too, because Taurus, the reason why it rules money is because it rules our values, our self-worth. So what we value in the world, but also the self-worth that we care, how we value ourselves in the world. And that's a reflection of your personal income. I'll say that again. Your personal income is a reflection of your self-value. If you have Taurus in the third house, then your breakthrough or realization is going to be in the area of communications. It's an interesting one because it's communications, it's learnings, but it's also relationships with your siblings, brothers and sisters, or neighbors. It's also independent contract work, or like sales on commission work. So you might have a breakthrough about your commissions, or you might have a breakthrough about social media. And like maybe you're going to blow up in social media if Taurus is in the third house. If Taurus is in the fourth house, your breakthrough or realization can come inside your home environment. So fourth house rules your home, your family, also how you nurture yourself. How do you take care of yourself? So something is going to cause you to look at that, look into that, have a realization. And maybe those things have been teed up. And you don't have to also just go like, oh, I didn't have anything this weekend. No, this is like setting in a new cycle for the next 13, 14 years. Fifth house, breakthrough realizations about self-expression. This Leo rules the fifth house, but you might have Taurus in the fifth house, in which case, then it's about self-expression in a Taurian kind of way. So Leo rules the house, but self-expression in a Taurian kind of way, which could be a way that values, you talk about money, or you talk about beauty or abundance. This also is the house of creativity, and it's a house of children. It's the house of romance. It's also weirdly the house of gambling. So just throwing that in there so you can have a breakthrough or realization around those things. Now, the sixth house is a breakthrough or realization around your daily work. This is the health and daily work house. And how we serve others, how we work, how we serve, how we work with others, not working as in partnerships, because that's going to be the seventh house, but how, our work serves others. So it could be that the way you've been working is just not working for you anymore. Like you've been staying up too late, or you've been giving too much, or you've been working in a way that doesn't have the progress you want. And you're realizing that you're not really cut out for it, that you're cut out for something different, and you've been trying to force something. And so now you're breaking through and you're really just naming the truth. Like, you know what? That's not me. I wish it were, but it's not. Or I don't even wish it were anymore. It's not me. The seventh house is a breakthrough or realization around partnerships. And we've got a lot of emphasis on partnerships because we have the Aries North Node, Libra South Node, and the Libra South Node is about partnerships because Libra rules the seventh house. So you can see how these things are intertwined and why different astrologers come with different things, because it's just a matter of what you look at and what layers you peel off. There's just a lot of complexity to it. But just breaking it down simply here so that you can at least find a breadcrumb trail for yourself. The seventh house, partnerships, or how do we relate to other people in our life? It can be romantic partnerships, but it also can be business partnerships. So the ways in which we have given ourselves away or given our stuff for free and not monetized it, or the way we've been transactional on the other end of that spectrum and monetized everything and not allowed for the free flow exchange of a relationship. So these require a little journaling, a little digging in, and you can download The Moon in You, my free PDF that takes you through all the full and new moons that support you, because I have a keynote that dials in the energy, and then you write your power statement for each full and new moon. So I'll put the link in the descriptions and grab that. It's free if you haven't. I still use it because every time I'm like, we're coming to a full moon, which one is it? And I'll look at what time, and I'll reread my keynotes and prepare for my full moon statement or my new moon statement. Okay, so the 8th house, we're getting down the finishing line. The 8th house, you'll experience a breakthrough or realization in shared finances. This is also investing. So this is other people's money. This is wills and trusts. This is investment, as I said. It's also intimacy. This is the house that is ruled by Scorpio. So we also have the full moon in Scorpio coming just a few days after this conjunction. So, again, this house will be lit up. So if you have Taurus in the 8th house, then that might be the locus of the activity that might happen as change, breakthrough, and realization in your life. It's also rules death. It's death and rebirth. So you might be having conversations around death, around your own mortality, around aging, or other people in your world are dying. The 9th house is breakthroughs and realizations in beliefs, philosophy, or like a teacher. I remember having some 9th house stuff happened, and it was when this teacher I put on a pedestal came crashing down off that pedestal, which then had me revisit my beliefs and my philosophies. And it's higher learning. It's also foreign travel. So just presencing that, can show up in different ways. The 10th house is the house of career. It's a house of your social standing or your reputation. And it's also the house of authority, where you have the authority, where what have you put your 10,000 hours in? And so you could have a breakthrough in your career if you have Taurus in the 10th house. The 11th house, breakthroughs or realizations in friendships, groups, or your role in the collective. It's also wishes fulfilled. I love the 11th house, honestly. It's really cool to me. It's very different. So it's friendships. If you have Taurus in your 11th house, then your social groups might be changing. Your role in the collective. So you might be showing up for something that you weren't showing up for before, or that you were thinking, and then all of a sudden you're now nominated. Or maybe you've experienced something like a wish that's fulfilled that you have, you've been holding, and the fruition, it comes to fruition during this time. And now finally, the 12th house. The 12th house is the house of the unconscious, the house of dreams, the house of our ancestors, the house of spirit. It's the house of life beyond this plane. The 12th house gets a bad rap in certain sectors of astrology. I like to just it's the house of what's hidden. It's the house of what we don't know. It's our house of our shadows. It's the house of that we are the vessel for all of that, but we're just not aware of everything. And yet it runs our lives. So those are the 12 houses. And I wanted you to think about where is this Uranus-Jupiter conjunction hitting? And then you look at other places in your chart that have either fixed signs with that same degree, or I have a couple, or I have one sign that's not fixed, but it's the same degree. So I'm just looking in those areas, just paying attention in those areas, because the energy is bringing in a new aliveness. And that's important to presence. Let me see if there's anything else I want to say, because I think we've talked about it. Oh yeah, I do. Yeah. One of the keys inside of this is to question everything. I love that Pam Gregory brought this forward, and I want to repeat it because it's so important. Question everything. Because when Uranus is on the center stage, and Uranus is the ruler of Pluto, and we have Pluto in Aquarius, and we have a new cycle, and we've been talking about that. We truly are in a new way of living and being. So this is a really good time to revisit, like, why do I do that? Why do I do the job that way? We've been putting up with a lot of stuff that it was okay to put up with because that was part of what we had to learn. But we're getting to this point where it is now no longer okay. It's not. It's just, it's done. Have you ever had that experience where that's just complete and you don't have to make up a big story about it because it was what it was, but now you can feel the energy shift. So the way that we have been working or living or buying our groceries or hiring people or working at dynamics at work, dynamics at home, dynamics in the house. I know like a lot of people, there's so much change happening, and that's because it's like this sub-zero. They were tolerating something, just kind of seeing, can we fix it? Can it work? Or will it change? Holding space for it. And then it was like, bam, no. And that's what the solar eclipse brought. It brought like tremendous clarity, like no more, I'm not doing it. So it's huge energy. And then this Uranus conjunction with Jupiter is just expanding that. And you're going to find a new way. You have to find a new way because the old way is getting purged. And that's the theme of the entire thing. If we go back to 2020, we got initiated into this like restriction, and now we're like, boom, bursting out, and it's getting purged. So something to remember is that these shocks of Uranian shocks, these purges, they're not linear, they're quantum, they're not gradual. So don't get, like expect that it's going to be unexpected or expect that it's going to come out of nowhere. Don't be surprised. I wasn't expecting that. That's like if you have a lot of fixed signs in your chart, you just kind of want everything to be known, and it's just not that kind of energy. We are shedding old skin. We are truly shedding old skin. And when you tap into like what's true for you now, you can tell that you're shedding old skin. Because like, are you the same person that you were in 2020? You're not. Things are changing. So I'm going to stop there because I think the next video gets to be around the Scorpio full moon, which is going to just illuminate all of this change. But for now, let's realize that we're on the fast track of evolution, like the dial has been turned up, and wherever you are, wherever anyone is in consciousness, it's going to meet you there and do something with you. And I want to be humble enough to know, because we're dealing with Uranus, but we're also dealing with Chiron. Remember, Mercury retrograde and then Mercury direct is going to make 3 connections with Chiron. So we're really going to understand more about our healing. And one of the things that's interesting about Chiron is that Chiron lives beyond Uranus. So Chiron's bringing in healing from another realm, not from the place that we know. And that's very important to presence, because what we know, what we think we know, is only a small, small sliver of what is possible. So let us use this Uranus-Jupiter conjunction to really blow the doors of perception in a way that's safe, in a way that actually moves us forward, that doesn't make us insane, but just really moves us forward on the evolutionary trajectory. And with that, let's dedicate all this positive energy to the merits. May all beings benefit from the merits of our efforts. Namaste.